Welcome to Creamer Media's Polity. I'm Amy Witherden. I am at the Centre for Policy Studies in Braamfontein to meet with Aubrey Machitli to discuss his recent column entitled Zumas Contradictory Coalition. Aubrey, you say in your column that President Jacob Zuma is not as powerful a leader of the African National Congress as President Thabo Mbeki was. Why do you say this?
Well, what you must remember is that post-Polokwane, a leader of the ANC, because of the instability that came with the battles prior to Polokwane, has to stabilize three things. Firstly, the realm of the state. Secondly, the realm of the party. And lastly, the alliance. Now, a powerful leader with the kind of powers that Thabo Mbeki had, the powers that were conferred on him in Mafikeng in 1997, such as the appointment of premiers, the appointment of heads of departments, and the appointment of premiers, is better placed to ensure that stability reigns after Polokwane. A leader who comes into the office of the presidency of the ANC after those powers have been taken away has two problems. Firstly, lack of power. Secondly, the fact that Polokwane came with certain expectations. One of the expectations arises from the lack of power itself. In withdrawing these powers that Mbeki had between 1997 and 2007, you now have a situation where there is an expectation in the ANC and the alliance that Jacob Zuma, as a leader of the ANC, should be much more accountable to the leadership of the ANC and the alliance than Thabo Mbeki was. Now, without those powers, the question is whether Jacob Zuma can show the kind of leadership that is required, or if you look at it positively, if he succeeds, he will succeed because he seems to have the ability to take people with him. But if he must arise, if he must rise above the rest, his is going to be quite a difficult task, because he is seen as an equal. But more importantly, he is seen as someone who is indebted to those who made sure that he's installed as ANC president and head of state.
Regarding the tensions within the ruling alliance over policy and the National Planning Commission, what are the challenges facing President Zuma if he is to show leadership in achieving a balance between achieving the left and pleasing the markets?
Well, the balance he has to strike is, as you say, that of appeasing the left and the markets, but more importantly, appeasing voters. Certain promises were made to voters during the April election campaign. And what he has to balance now is, one, ensuring that state capacity is enhanced to give effect to the promise of faster delivery and a better quality of delivery. But critical to that is the planning function of the state. Now, the planning function of the state, unfortunately, is not divorced from power games within the alliance and the ANC. And these power games are being played in the realm of the state, which means whoever is responsible for planning within the state becomes the most powerful cabinet player in the current context. And therefore, if that person is not seen to be a supporter of the forces that made sure that Zuma was installed president of the ANC and president of the country, you are going to see the kind of twists we've been seeing. Now, what is getting lost here is that in the narrow power games that are being played between the left and those who are seen to be on the right of Cosatu and the SACP, issues of governance are being forgotten, and the people are being forgotten. And also what is being lost is a realization that Zuma has only 5 years to give effect to these promises. In a few months' time, a year shall have lapsed, and if things continue as they are at the moment, it means after a year, the ANC and its left allies will still be debating what planning is, what the content of that planning should be, instead of implementing the plan.
So it's a waste of time if they keep on debating it rather than getting on with the issues.
It is a waste of time, but also, as we move towards 2012, it might become even more difficult for the ANC to plan. Because remember, the ANC imposes the policy framework, after which the planning process must start, followed by implementation. Now, if battles are lost in the planning phase, you are certain that what will follow is an attempt to win policy battles that were lost in the planning phase, in the policy phase, during the planning phase, as a result of which you will see these battles coinciding with internal political battles in the ANC for leadership, which means paralysis, not only within the alliance and the ANC, but also within the state, might result from all this infighting.
On that note, with the debate over policy that's currently dominating the political sphere, you say that President Zuma may have to worry more about survival ahead of the ANC's 2012 conference. Please explain your reasoning.
Well, prior to the Polokwane conference, those who supported Jacob Zuma, particularly those in the SACP and Cosatu, argued that the post-apartheid state under the leadership of Thabo Mbeki had assumed a bias towards capital and the middle class at the expense of the poor and the working class. Now, what they expect from Zuma is an administration that has a bias towards the poor and the working class. But in the process, a perception is taking root in the ANC that the left has taken over, not only Jacob Zuma, but the ANC itself, that the left has become dominant in determining the content of policy. Now, whether that perception is grounded in truth or not is not the issue. What is the issue is whether the perception is informing the political decisions that people are making in the ANC. And if that is the case, some internal constituencies will rebel against Jacob Zuma, and that rebellion might be seen next year in the National General Council of the ANC, or even in 2012, when the ANC holds its national conference. And the question that arises in that context is whether Zuma will survive those battles, or, like Mbeki, will become a casualty of those battles.
So again, it's about appeasing his allies.
Well, it's about a balancing act. But sometimes an attempt at a balancing act requires an imbalance. Self-preservation for Zuma might be about knowing where that imbalance lies. If in trying to balance he thinks he can please all parties, he is making a mistake. He must decide which parties he can afford to displease, and which parties in displeasing mean he is advancing his agenda as far as enhancing state capacity and enhancing delivery are concerned. But if he thinks he can please all parties all the time, the result will be paralysis, and he himself might become a casualty of that paralysis.
Which strategy means a good leader? What strategy makes a good leader in the balancing process?
Well, firstly, the context of leadership is a very specific one. It is the context of the balance of forces in the ANC and the balance of forces within the tripartite alliance. So his first political management task is that of managing the balance of forces within the ANC and the tripartite alliance, which means one of the issues he must help clarify is whether it is the ANC or the alliance that is the strategic center, a strategic center that will inform the content of policy, and therefore the content of the policies that ANC deployees in the realm of the state will implement. As long as there is confusion about whether it is the ANC or the alliance that is the strategic center, what will happen is that the ANC and its left allies will continue fighting for dominance as far as the content of policy is concerned. And as I said, it is Zuma who actually might be the casualty of that battle. But at the same time, in a situation where you have this constant jockeying for hegemonic positions as far as economic policy and other policies are concerned, the voter will be the loser. The citizen will be the loser. Now, in the short to medium term, the ANC will not pay too high a price. But beyond the medium term, masses of our people might start withdrawing from democratic and electoral process if, in their perception, the ANC continues to fail them.
That has happened throughout Africa. People just don't vote because they don't see viable political options.
Well, in our case, one of the problems is the absence of credible opposition, which means in the first phase, people are simply going to withdraw from participating in elections. You are not going to see them swinging from the ANC to the opposition. Beyond that, it's possible that people might vote against the ANC in favor of another party in protest. So the ANC must not think that the situation where we do not see a swing is going to be permanent. So even in the absence of a credible alternative to the ANC, there might come a point when, in protest against the ANC, people vote for any alternative just to register that protest.
Thank you, Aubrey.
You're welcome.